Before we dive in, please remember that this video is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor, and the career paths and salary figures discussed are based on publicly available data and my personal experience. Your own results will depend on your effort, experience, and the job market. This presentation does not constitute financial or career advice. Let me tell you about a guy named Alex. Just 3 years ago, Alex was working in digital marketing for a mid-sized retail company. He was good at his job. He ran the email campaigns, managed the social media ads, and pulled the weekly reports. His salary, $55,000 a year. He was living in a major US city, and after rent, student loans, and groceries, he was barely breaking even. He felt like he was on a hamster wheel. He was busy, but he wasn't building anything. He was executing someone else's strategy, using fragmented tools, and constantly feeling like he was a decade behind the technology curve. He'd see job postings for data scientist or cloud architect with salaries that looked like phone numbers, but they all required a PhD in statistics or a computer science degree from a top-tier university. He felt completely locked out. Fast forward to today. Alex is a senior data cloud consultant. He works remotely, choosing to live in a city with a much lower cost of living. He makes $180,000 a year plus a bonus. He doesn't just run campaigns anymore. He designs the entire data engine that powers personalization for a multi-billion-dollar brand. He's the one in the meeting that everyone turns to when they say, "How can we actually make this happen?" He went from being a cog in the machine to the person designing the machine. What changed? He didn't go back and get a 4-year degree. He didn't win the lottery. He made a strategic decision to learn a very specific high-demand skill set centered around one powerful platform that most people, even in the tech industry, are just now starting to understand. That platform is Salesforce Data Cloud. And the story I just told you about Alex isn't a fairy tale. It's a reality I've seen play out again and again for people who were smart enough to see where the puck was going. If you feel like Alex did, if you feel stuck, undervalued, or overwhelmed by the sheer number of tech skills you're supposed to learn, then this is the most important video you will watch this year. Because the opportunity right now in the data cloud ecosystem is staggering. It's like being in San Francisco in 1849, and someone just handed you a map to the gold rush. Companies are sitting on mountains of data, customer clicks, purchase histories, support tickets, mobile app usage, and it's a complete mess. It's stored in a dozen different systems that don't talk to each other. They know the answers to their biggest business problems are buried in that data, but they have no idea how to unlock it. They are desperate, and I mean desperately, searching for people who can walk in, make sense of the chaos, and turn that messy data into pure gold. They're not just looking for coders. They're looking for strategists, for problem solvers, for translators who can bridge the gap between business goals and technical reality. And they are willing to pay an enormous premium for these people. The problem is, there aren't enough of them. The demand for data cloud professionals is exploding, but the supply is lagging far, far behind. This creates a massive economic imbalance in your favor if you have the right skills. And that is the entire purpose of this video. I'm going to give you the map. I'm going to break down the 5 essential non-negotiable skills you need to build a successful, high-paying, and future-proof career in Salesforce Data Cloud. We're not talking about vague concepts like, be a good communicator. We're talking about the concrete, practical skills that will get you noticed by recruiters and hired by top companies. These are the skills that separate the applicants who get an automated rejection email from the ones who get a 6-figure offer. Over the next few minutes, we will dismantle the idea that you need to be a math genius or a coding prodigy to succeed in this field. We will lay out a clear step-by-step framework that will take you from where you are now, whether you're in marketing, sales, analytics, or even a completely unrelated field, to being a top-tier data cloud professional. This isn't about getting a certification just to have it. This is about building a deep, fundamental understanding that makes you indispensable to any organization. So let's get into it. The 5 skills we're going to cover are a strategic stack. Each one builds on the last. You can't just learn one and expect to succeed. You need the full toolkit. Think of it like building a house. You can't put up the walls before you've poured the foundation. The first skill is that foundation. It's the single most important concept you have to master, and it's where most people go wrong. Skill number 1 is what I call the architect's mindset, which is all about mastering data modeling and ingestion. Now, don't let the term data modeling scare you. It sounds complex and intimidating, but let's break it down into something incredibly simple. Forget about code, forget about servers, forget about databases for a second. At its core, data modeling is simply the art of understanding and organizing information. It's about looking at a giant, messy pile of Legos and figuring out how to sort them by color, size, and shape so you can build something amazing. Think about it this way. A company like Nike has millions of customers. A single customer, let's call her Jane, interacts with Nike in dozens of ways. She buys a pair of running shoes on Nike.com. She browses for workout clothes on the Nike mobile app. She opens a promotional email they sent her. She calls customer service to ask about a return. She walks into a physical Nike store and her phone connects to the Wi-Fi. Each one of those actions creates a piece of data. The website records a purchase. The app records a product view. The email system records an open. The call center records a support ticket. The store records a visit. Right now, in most companies, those 5 pieces of data live in 5 different systems that have no idea the others exist. The website knows Jane as customer ID 123. The app knows her as device ID XYZ. The email system knows her as jane.doe@email.com. To the company's technology, this looks like 5 different people. This is a disaster. How can you market to Jane effectively if you don't have a single, unified view of who she is and what she cares about? You can't. You end up sending her an email offer for the very shoes she just bought, which is just a terrible customer experience. This is the problem that a data cloud professional with a strong understanding of data modeling solves. Your job is to be the master architect. You look at all these different data sources and you design the blueprint for how they will all come together. You ask the critical questions. What's the most important piece of information about a customer? It's probably their email address or a unique customer ID. We call this the primary key. How do we link a website visit to a mobile app session? Maybe through a shared login. How do we connect an in-store visit to an online profile? This is the strategic thinking that comes before you ever write a single line of code or configure any software. You have to decide how to structure the data. You're creating the master profile for Jane. This profile will have her name, her email, her purchase history, her browsing behavior, her support tickets, everything, all in one clean, organized place. This is called the Customer 360, the holy grail of modern business. Mastering this skill means you can walk into any company, look at their chaotic data landscape, and confidently draw the blueprint that will bring order to that chaos. It's part detective work, part strategy, and part logic. You have to understand the business goals first. What is the company trying to achieve? Do they want to increase customer loyalty? Do they want to predict which customers are likely to churn? The business goal dictates the data model. You don't just connect data for the sake of connecting it. You connect it with a purpose. And once you have that blueprint, that perfect data model, then you tackle the second half of this skill, data ingestion. This is the how. How do we physically get the data from the website's database, from the mobile app server, from the email platform's API, and pull it into the data cloud? This is where you'll learn about things like APIs, connectors, and streaming data pipelines. You'll figure out how to set up these pathways to flow data in real time, so that when Jane clicks on a product on the app, that information is available to the marketing team in seconds, not days. This foundational skill, data modeling and ingestion, is what separates the amateurs from the professionals. Anyone can learn to click buttons in a piece of software, but very few people can step back, think strategically about the structure of information, and design a robust, scalable data model that will serve the business for years to come. If you can master this, you become one of the most valuable people in the entire organization. You're not just a technician, you are a data architect. And that is the foundation on which your entire data cloud career will be built. So you've designed the blueprint, the grand architectural plan for your customer data. It's beautiful. It's elegant. Connects everything. But a blueprint is just a piece of paper, and an empty database is just a digital ghost town. Now you face the second and arguably one of the most challenging hurdles in any data project. Where do you get the bricks, the lumber, and the wiring? How do you actually get the raw materials, the data, into this beautiful structure you've designed? This brings us to the second essential skill for a career in Salesforce Data Cloud: data ingestion and integration mastery. If data modeling is the art of designing the perfect house, data ingestion is the science of building the roads, bridges, and pipelines that bring all the construction materials to the site. And trust me, those materials are scattered everywhere. They're in 100 different quarries, lumber yards, and warehouses, and none of them use the same shipping manifests. This is the reality for almost every company on Earth. Their data is a chaotic, sprawling mess. Let me tell you about a company, we'll call them Acme Retail. Acme had a brilliant marketing team, a fantastic product, and a loyal customer base. But they were bleeding money and they couldn't figure out why. They had customer data in their Salesforce Sales Cloud. They had web interaction data in Google Analytics. Their purchase history was locked away in an ancient on-premise SQL server that the IT department was terrified to even touch. Their customer support tickets were in Zendesk. Their loyalty program points lived in a custom-built system from 2005. Each department looked at its own little island of information and made decisions. The marketing team saw a customer, Jane, browsing a new line of high-end jackets on the website. So they blasted her with ads for those jackets. But they had no idea that the service team, looking at their Zendesk data, knew Jane had just filed 3 separate support tickets because her last jacket from Acme fell apart after 2 washes. Meanwhile, the sales team, looking at the SQL server, saw that Jane was historically a discount-only buyer who had never once paid full price. The result? The marketing team wasted thousands of dollars trying to sell a premium product to an unhappy, price-sensitive customer. Jane got frustrated by the irrelevant ads, annoyed by her poor quality product, and eventually she stopped being a customer altogether. Acme Retail was flying blind with multiple conflicting versions of the truth. Their data wasn't a strategic asset. It was a liability. It was digital spaghetti. This is the problem that a master of data ingestion solves. You are the hero who walks into this chaos and builds order. You are the one who says, the website data from Google Analytics? We'll build a pipeline for that. The legacy SQL database? We'll find a way to connect to it. The third-party systems like Zendesk? We will integrate them. Your job is to connect all of these disparate sources into Data Cloud, transforming that collection of disconnected data islands into a unified continent of information. In Salesforce Data Cloud, this isn't just a vague concept. It's a set of powerful, tangible tools. And knowing how to wield them is what separates the amateurs from the 6-figure professionals. First, you have the out-of-the-box connectors. This is your easy button. Data Cloud is built to seamlessly connect to the other Salesforce clouds: Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud Engagement. With a few clicks, you can start streaming in data about leads, contacts, cases, and email interactions. This is the low-hanging fruit, and being able to quickly and efficiently connect the core Salesforce ecosystem is a fundamental requirement. But no company lives entirely within the Salesforce ecosystem. That's where the real fun begins. You'll need to master ingestion from external sources. Maybe it's a cloud data warehouse like Snowflake, BigQuery, or Redshift. Data Cloud has connectors for these, allowing you to ingest massive datasets that have already been collected and stored elsewhere. You're not rebuilding the warehouse. You're simply building a superhighway from it directly into your customer data platform. Then you have the wildcard, the completely custom, homegrown, or legacy systems like Acme Retail's old SQL Server. This is where you prove your real value. Data Cloud provides tools like the Ingestion API. This is your universal adapter. It allows you to push data from literally any system that can make a web request. Learning how to properly format data, handle authentication, and build robust, automated processes using this API is a golden ticket. It means that no data source is off-limits. You can walk into any company, look at their tangled mess of technology and confidently say, yes, we can get that data. All of it. But mastering ingestion isn't just about knowing how to connect things. It's about knowing when and why to use different methods. This is where we talk about ingestion patterns, and understanding these is crucial. First, you have batch ingestion. Think of this like a daily delivery truck. Every night at 2 a.m., a truck shows up and unloads all the data from the previous day. It's reliable, it's great for huge volumes of data, and it's perfect for information that doesn't change much, like historical sales figures or product catalog updates. You need to know how to schedule, monitor, and troubleshoot these batch jobs to ensure the data arrives consistently and correctly. Second, you have near real-time ingestion. This is more like a fleet of delivery mopeds zipping around the city. Instead of one big drop-off per day, you're getting smaller deliveries every 15 minutes or every hour. This is fantastic for things like website behavior. You don't need to know the exact second a customer clicks on a product, but knowing what they did in the last hour is incredibly powerful for personalization. You need to understand the trade-offs here. It requires more system resources, but provides much fresher data. Finally, you have the holy grail streaming ingestion. This isn't a delivery truck or a moped. This is a direct, open pipeline. The moment an event happens in a source system, that data is fired directly into Data Cloud. A customer abandons their shopping cart? The data arrives instantly. They click a link in an email? That event is captured in milliseconds. This is what powers the truly magical, in-the-moment customer experiences. A customer is struggling on the checkout page for more than 2 minutes? A streaming event can trigger an automated pop-up offering live chat assistance right then and there. Mastering streaming data requires an understanding of event-driven architecture, how to handle high-velocity data, and how to build systems that can react in the blink of an eye. A person who understands these 3 patterns, batch, near real-time, and streaming, and knows which one to apply to which business problem is not just a technician. They are a data flow strategist. They are the ones who ensure that the right data arrives at the right time to power the right decision. They can look at Acme Retail's mess and say, okay, the historical purchase data from the old SQL server? We'll use a nightly batch job for that. The website clicks from Google Analytics? We'll set up a near real-time feed. And for the add to cart events from the e-commerce platform, that needs to be a real-time stream so we can trigger abandoned cart journeys immediately. This skill is about so much more than just clicking connect. It's about being a data detective, an investigator who can map out a company's entire data landscape. It's about being an engineer who can build reliable, scalable pipelines to transport that data. And it's about being a strategist who understands the business impact of data latency and freshness. When you master data ingestion and integration, you become the person who turns the lights on. You take a company from a state of fractured, siloed ignorance to one of unified, holistic intelligence. You are the one who makes the beautiful data model you designed in step 1 actually come to life, filling it with the lifeblood of the organization, its data. But here's the critical catch. Just because all the ingredients have arrived in the kitchen, doesn't mean you're ready to cook a gourmet meal. Right now, what you have is a pile of groceries. The carrots are still covered in dirt. The chicken isn't butchered, and the flour, sugar, and salt are all in unmarked bags. You've successfully ingested the data, but it's raw, it's messy, and worst of all, it's disconnected. You have 3 different records for Jane Smith, Jay Smith, and Janie Smith. And the system has no idea they're all the same person. Pouring raw, messy data into your model is a recipe for disaster. You haven't created a single source of truth. You've just created a bigger, more centralized mess. So how do you clean it? How do you transform it? And most importantly, how do you resolve all those duplicate identities to create that single golden customer record? That is the next critical skill. And it's where the real magic of Data Cloud begins. This is where you stop being a data collector and start becoming a data detective. The skill is called identity resolution, and it's the beating heart of Data Cloud. Think about it. Your company has data about a single person, let's call her Sarah, scattered across a dozen different systems. Your e-commerce platform knows her as sarah.jones@email.com. Your marketing tool knows her by a cookie ID and her first name, Sarah. Your customer service system has a record tied to her phone number. To your systems, these look like 3 different people. But you know they're all the same Sarah. Identity resolution is the process of teaching Data Cloud how to connect those dots, how to look at all the disparate clues from all these systems and definitively say, yes, this is all the same person. It's about building a single, unified profile, that golden record we talked about that represents one human being, not one row in a database. So how do you actually do this? It's not some black box AI magic, though there's plenty of that under the hood. It's a process you, the Data Cloud professional, define. You configure what are called rule sets. And this is where your analytical brain really gets to shine. There are 2 main types of rules you need to master: match rules and reconciliation rules. Let's start with match rules. These rules tell Data Cloud how to find potential matches. You're essentially defining what it means for 2 records to be about the same person. You can set up multiple rules and you can get incredibly specific. A common first rule, a really strong one, is to match on an exact email address. If 2 records from 2 different systems both have sarah.jones@email.com, that's a very strong signal they're the same person. You've got a match. But what if one system has her work email and another has her personal email? An email-only rule would miss that. So you create another rule. Maybe you match on a mobile phone number. That's another strong identifier. Then you can get into what we call fuzzy matching. Let's say one record has the name Sarah Jones at 123 Main Street, and another has S. Jones at 123 Main Street. A human can see that's the same person, and you can teach Data Cloud to see it too. You can tell it to match on first name, last name, and address, but to be a little flexible. It can ignore the initial. and it can understand that street and ST are the same thing. You build these rules in a hierarchy from most certain to least certain. You start with the slam dunks like a unique customer ID or an exact email, and then you move to the more probabilistic matches like fuzzy name and address. Your job is to think critically about your company's data. What are your most reliable identifiers? What are the common ways data gets entered incorrectly? You are the architect of this matching logic. But finding the matches is only half the battle. Once Data Cloud has identified 3 records that all belong to Sarah, it creates a new single unified profile for her. But which data does it use? Record 1 has her first name as Sarah. Record 2 has it as S. Record 3, from a web form she filled out in a hurry, has it in all lowercase, Sarah. Which one should the golden record use? This is where our second type of rule, reconciliation rules, comes into play. If match rules are about finding the family, reconciliation rules are about deciding who gets to be in the family portrait. For every single field, first name, last name, email, phone number, address, you have to tell Data Cloud how to choose the winning value. You have a few options. One popular method is last updated. For something like a shipping address, this makes perfect sense. You always want the most recent address on file. So you tell Data Cloud, look at the timestamps on all 3 of Sarah's records. Whichever record has the most recent last modified date, take the address from that one. Another option is source priority. Maybe you know your e-commerce system has the most accurate billing information, because that's where credit card transactions happen. You can tell Data Cloud, for the billing address field, always trust the e-commerce system. I don't care if the other sources are more recent. The e-commerce data is the source of truth. You can also use most frequent. This can be useful for things like a name. If 2 records say Sarah and 1 says S, the rule will choose Sarah because it appears most often. You go through this process for all of your key customer attributes, defining a clear, logical strategy for how to construct the most accurate, up-to-date, and complete profile possible. Mastering identity resolution, understanding how to craft smart match rules and thoughtful reconciliation rules, is arguably the most foundational and valuable skill in the entire Data Cloud ecosystem. Because if you get this wrong, everything else you do downstream is built on a foundation of sand. All the cool segmentation, all the advanced AI, all the personalized journeys, they all fall apart if you're not talking to the right person. But when you get it right, you create a single source of truth that is breathtakingly powerful. Now, closely related to this is the skill of data transformation. Sometimes the data you bring into Data Cloud isn't quite ready for prime time, even after you've unified the records. It needs a little bit of cleanup. This is where you'll use what are called formula fields. If you've ever used formula fields in Salesforce Sales or Service Cloud, or even just written a formula in Excel or Google Sheets, you're already halfway there. Data Cloud gives you a powerful formula builder to clean, standardize, and enrich your data on the fly. Let me give you a few examples. Imagine you're pulling in a country field from 3 different systems. One system stores it as USA, another as USA, and a third as United States. For your analytics and segmentation to work properly, you need all of these to be the same. You can create a formula field that says, if the country field is USA, or United States, then output the standardized value USA. Boom! Problem solved. All your country data is now clean and consistent. Or let's say you want to create a new field called customer tenure. You have the first purchase date for a customer. You can create a formula that subtracts that date from today's date to calculate, in real time, how many years or months they've been a customer. This isn't data you ingested. It's data you created inside Data Cloud. This is incredibly powerful for segmentation. Now you can easily build an audience of all customers who have been with you for more than 5 years. Another classic example is standardizing state codes. You might get California, and CA. A simple formula can transform all of them into the standard 2-letter CA. This might seem small, but it's the difference between a system that works and one that's riddled with frustrating little errors. The ability to look at raw data, identify inconsistencies, and write formulas to standardize and enrich it is a critical skill that separates the novices from the pros. It shows you're not just connecting pipes. You're a data craftsman, shaping the raw material into something clean, reliable, and immensely more valuable. So you've ingested the data, you've mapped it, and now, you've used the incredible power of identity resolution and data transformation to build a pristine 360-degree view of your customer. You have the golden record. This is the holy grail that companies have been chasing for decades. You've done it. So now what? What do you actually do with this perfect customer profile? Having the data is one thing. Knowing how to activate it is something else entirely. That is where our next essential skill comes in. And it's how you turn this beautiful data asset into actual business results. And that skill is called data activation. This is the moment where the potential energy stored in your data is converted into the kinetic energy of business growth. It's the bridge between knowing who your best customers are and actually treating them like it. It's the difference between having a blueprint for a skyscraper and actually seeing that building rise into the skyline. All the data modeling, all the identity resolution, all the segmentation we've talked about. It's all just an academic exercise until you activate it. Think about our hypothetical high-end sneaker brand, Ascend Kicks. In the last step, they did the hard work. They unified data from their website, their mobile app, their retail stores, and their marketing emails. They used this unified profile to build a golden segment, a master list of their absolute best customers, which they've called Tier 0 collectors. These aren't just people who bought a pair of shoes once. These are the diehards. They've spent over $2,000 in the last year. They've purchased at least 3 limited edition drops, and they open every single email about new releases within the first hour. This segment is a gold mine. But right now, that gold is just sitting in the ground. It's a list in Data Cloud. What is Ascend Kicks doing with it? Before Data Cloud, the answer was, not much. This Tier 0 collector segment was getting the exact same generic, 20% off site-wide email blast as the person who bought one pair of socks 3 years ago and never came back. It's a massive, massive mistake. You're telling your most loyal, passionate fans that you see them as nothing more than another email address on a list. You're treating your VIPs the same as everyone else, which is the fastest way to make them feel like they're not VIPs at all. This is where the skill of data activation comes in. A Data Cloud professional doesn't just build the segment, they architect the experience. They look at that Tier 0 collectors segment and they don't just see a list. They see an opportunity to create magic. So what do? Inside Salesforce Data Cloud, they create what's called an activation. They select their Tier 0 collectors segment, and then they decide where to send it. This is the crucial part. They don't just send it to one place. They orchestrate a symphony of personalized experiences across the entire business. First, they activate this segment to Marketing Cloud. But they don't just dump it into a generic email blast. No, this segment gets injected into a custom multi-step journey in Journey Builder. The first email they receive has the subject line, Your Private Invitation, the Ether X1 project. The email doesn't have a discount. It has a password-protected link to a behind-the-scenes video with the lead shoe designer, teasing the next limited edition drop, the Ether X1. It makes them feel like insiders, like part of the creative process. A week later, they get an SMS message with a unique, single-use code that gives them a 24-hour head start to buy the shoe before it's released to the public. This isn't marketing. It's an exclusive privilege. But they don't stop there. Simultaneously, they activate the same segment to their advertising platforms. They push it to Meta to create a custom audience. Now, when these collectors are scrolling through their Instagram feed, they don't see a boring ad for Ascend Kicks. They see a targeted video, maybe an interview with a celebrity athlete who collaborated on the Ether X1 with a caption that says, "For our Tier 0 family only. Your early access is waiting." They're reinforcing that feeling of exclusivity on the platforms where these customers spend their time. They also push this audience to Google Ads, not just for retargeting but to create a lookalike audience. They're telling Google's powerful algorithm, "This is what my perfect customer looks like. Go find me hundreds of thousands of other people who behave just like them." Their ad spend just went from a shotgun blast to a sniper shot. But we're still not done. The true power of Data Cloud is breaking down silos beyond marketing. So the Data Cloud professional also creates an activation to Service Cloud. They create a rule. If any individual from the Tier 0 collectors segment initiates a support chat or calls the customer service line, their case is automatically flagged as VIP and routed to a specialized, senior support agent. This means no long wait times, no generic responses. They get the best of the best, because a bad service experience could lose a customer who is worth thousands of dollars. The customer doesn't know why they're getting such great service. They just know that Ascend Kicks takes care of them. And for the grand finale, they activate a portion of this segment to Sales Cloud. They might filter for customers who have a high lifetime value, and whose email address domain matches a known business. This could indicate they're a small business owner or an influencer. An automated task is created in Sales Cloud for a B2B sales rep to reach out personally. A simple, non-sleazy email. Hey John, I'm the head of partnerships here at Ascend Kicks. I noticed you're one of our most valued collectors, and I'm a huge fan of your work at company name. I had an idea for a potential collaboration I'd love to run by you. You've just used consumer data to open a massive B2B sales opportunity, an opportunity you would have never seen otherwise. Do you see the power here? This is the skill. It's not just about connecting systems. It's about customer-centric orchestration. The professional who masters data activation understands that a customer journey isn't a straight line. It's a web of touchpoints, and their job is to ensure that every single one of those touchpoints, email, social media ads, customer service, even B2B sales, is consistent, personalized, and intelligent. They are using the data to make the customer feel seen, understood, and valued at every turn. To develop this skill, you need a unique blend of strategic and technical thinking. Strategically, you have to be able to look at a business goal, like increase the repeat purchase rate of our top customers, and map out the entire cross-channel experience to achieve it. You have to ask, what's the right message for the right person on the right channel at the right time? Technically, you need to understand the nuts and bolts of how these systems talk to each other. When you send that segment from Data Cloud to Meta, you need to know how to map the attributes correctly. You need to make sure the email address in Data Cloud matches the format Meta expects. You need to decide which other attributes to send. Do you send their lifetime value score? Their last purchase date? Their loyalty status? Each piece of data you send allows for even deeper personalization on the other side. A mistake here, a mismapped field, and the entire personalized experience falls apart. The beautiful exclusive email you designed says, "Hi name," instead of "Hi John." It completely shatters the illusion. So, the skill of data activation is about being a master conductor. You have the world's greatest musicians in your orchestra: Marketing Cloud, Sales Cloud, Meta, Google. But without a conductor to tell them what to play and when all you have is noise. The data activation specialist is the one who steps onto the podium, raises the baton, and turns that noise into a beautiful, profitable symphony. We've now taken our raw data, unified it, built a powerful segment, and activated it across the business to create an incredible, revenue-driving customer experience. Feels like we've reached the summit, but there's a critical, lingering question. How do we know it worked? How can we prove to the CEO that this complex multi-channel Tier 0 collectors campaign actually performed better than the old cheap generic email blast? How do we measure the return on investment? Because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, and you certainly can't get a bigger budget for it next year. Answering that question, proving the value of your work, requires our fourth essential skill. And this is the one that truly separates the data storytellers from the data scientists. That fourth skill is business acumen. But that's the boring, corporate speak way of putting it. Let's call it what it really is: value translation. It's the ability to connect every single click, every line of SQL, every segment you build in Data Cloud directly to a $sign on the company's balance sheet. It's the ability to stand in front of a CFO who doesn't know what a data model object is and doesn't care, and tell them exactly how your work is going to make their number go up. Anyone can learn the tech. The people who get the promotions, the people who lead the teams, the people who become indispensable, they're the ones who can translate the technical into the tangible. They are the masters of answering the single most important question in business. So what? You spent a month unifying customer data from 3 different systems? So what? You built a complex segmentation model that identifies customers likely to churn? So what? You activated that segment into a Marketing Cloud journey? So what? Until you can answer that final question with a number that matters to the business: increased revenue, decreased costs, improved customer lifetime value. All your brilliant technical work is just an academic exercise. It's a science project. And science projects don't get funded. Business solutions do. Let me tell you a story about 2 data analysts, both brilliant, both working with Data Cloud at similar companies. Let's call them Ben and Alex. Ben is a technical wizard. He knows every nook and cranny of Data Cloud. He can write SQL that would make a database architect weep with joy. His company tasked him with a major initiative: create a 360-degree view of the customer to enable personalization. Ben dove in. For 3 months he worked tirelessly. He mapped dozens of data sources, resolved complex identity rules, and built intricate calculated insights. At the end of the quarter, he had a presentation for the executive team. He put up a slide with a complex entity relationship diagram. He said, "As you can see, we've successfully unified 12 disparate data sources, achieving a 98% match rate on our customer identity resolution. This has allowed us to create 47 new calculated insights, like propensity to buy and churn risk score, which are now available for segmentation." He clicked to the next slide showing a bar chart. "Our segment sizes are robust, and our initial email campaign to the hyper-propensity segment saw a 4% lift in open rates compared to the control group." He finished, proud of his work. The CEO looked at the VP of Marketing and asked, "What does this mean for our Q4 sales target?" The VP shuffled his papers. Ben opened his mouth, but nothing came out. A 4% lift in open rates? What was that in dollars? He didn't know. He had done the data work perfectly, but he couldn't cross the last mile. He couldn't translate his work into the language of the business. His project was seen as a nice-to-have, and his request for more resources was politely declined. Now let's look at Alex. Alex is also technically skilled, but she started in a completely different place. Before she wrote a single line of code, she booked meetings. Not with the IT team, but with the head of sales, the head of customer service, and the product marketing manager. She asked them one simple question. "If you could wave a magic wand and know one thing about our customers that you don't know now, what would it be?" The head of sales said, "I need to know which of my accounts are actively looking at our competitor's pricing page." The head of service said, "I need to know if a customer calling for support has a huge, multi-million-dollar deal pending in the sales pipeline, so my agents can treat them like VIPs." The marketing manager said, "I need to know the moment a customer from our most valuable segment shows signs of disengaging, not a month later when they've already canceled." Alex heard 3 distinct business problems, each with a massive price tag attached. Losing a big deal, churning a VIP customer, losing your best clients. Now, her work had a purpose. It wasn't just about unifying data. It was about solving multi-million-dollar problems. She went to work in Data Cloud. She ingested web analytics data to create a real-time alert for the sales team when a key account hit a competitor's website. She unified sales pipeline data from Sales Cloud with support data from Service Cloud to create a VIP on-deck flag for service agents. And she created a sophisticated engagement model that tracked 20 different signals to predict churn before it happened. When Alex presented to the executive team, her first slide didn't have a single technical term on it. It had 3 numbers: the value of the average enterprise deal, the annual revenue from their top 100 VIP customers, the cost of acquiring a new customer versus retaining an existing one. She started by saying, "Last quarter, we lost 2 major deals worth a combined $1.5 million because our sales team was blindsided. We also churned 5 of our top 100 customers, costing us an estimated $800,000 in annual recurring revenue. I'm here to show you how we're going to stop the bleeding." She then walked them through her solutions, but she never used the language of Data Cloud. She didn't say, "I created a data stream from our web SDK." She said, "We now have a tripwire that tells our sales reps the exact moment their prospect is getting a quote from our top competitor, so they can get on the phone in minutes, not days." She didn't say, "I resolved identities between the contact and opportunity objects." She said, "From now on, when our most valuable customers call for help, our support team will see flashing $signs next to their name and will know to roll out the red carpet." At the end of her presentation, she didn't ask for resources. She presented a business case. "Based on the pilot, we project these systems will help us close 1 additional enterprise deal per quarter and reduce VIP churn by 30%. That represents a potential $8.4 million impact to the top line over the next 12 months. To scale this across the entire organization, we'll need a budget of $250,000. Do you think she got the budget? You bet she did. She got the budget, a promotion, and the reputation as someone who doesn't just manage data but who makes it rain. Ben and Alex had the same skills, the same tool. The only difference was that Alex mastered value translation. So how do you develop this skill? First, learn the language. Stop talking about DMOs and CIs and start talking about LTV, CAC, and AOV, lifetime value, customer acquisition cost, and average order value. Understand how the business measures success, and then relentlessly connect your work in Data Cloud back to those core metrics. Second, get out of the data cave. Go on a ride-along with a sales rep. Listen in on customer service calls. Sit in on the marketing team's weekly meeting. You need to develop empathy for their problems. Your job is not to build cool tech. Your job is to use cool tech to make their lives easier and their results better. The closer you are to the business, the more clearly you'll see how to apply your skills for maximum impact. And third, practice the art of the business case. For every project you propose, create a one-page document. On the top half, define the business problem in plain English and quantify its cost. On the bottom half, describe your proposed data cloud solution and quantify its projected value. This simple exercise will force you to think like an executive and ensure you're always focused on work that truly matters. Mastering SQL data modeling and activation is what gets you in the game, but mastering value translation is what lets you win it. It's the skill that turns you from a technician into a strategist, from a cost center into a profit center. But even with all four of these skills in your arsenal, there's one more. A final, crucial piece of the puzzle. This last skill isn't about what you do in Data Cloud, it's about how you think about it. It's the meta skill that ensures your value doesn't just grow, but compounds over time, making you immune to technological shifts and an indispensable asset to any organization you join. It's the difference between having a job and building a career. And building a true career, one that withstands the test of time, starts not with flashy dashboards or complex algorithms, but with something far more fundamental. It starts with the blueprint. It starts with the second essential skill you absolutely must master: data modeling and architecture. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Data modeling? Architecture? That sounds boring. It sounds like work for database administrators in a windowless basement. And if that's your first reaction, I need you to lean in close, because this is the single biggest misconception that holds people back. Data modeling isn't just a technical task. It's the art and science of creating the digital skeleton of a business. It's the most strategic, most high-impact skill you can develop in the entire data ecosystem. Imagine you were hired to build a 100-story skyscraper. On day one, would you just show up with a truck full of steel and start welding beams together? Of course not. You'd spend months, maybe even years, with architects and engineers designing a blueprint. A blueprint that dictates where every support column goes, where every electrical wire runs, where every plumbing pipe is laid. That blueprint is what ensures the building can withstand an earthquake, that the lights turn on, and that it can serve its purpose for the next century. Salesforce Data Cloud is that skyscraper, and your data model is the blueprint. When you fail to model your data correctly, you're not just making a technical mistake. You are building a skyscraper on a foundation of sand. You're welding beams at random. You're running plumbing to nowhere. You're creating a chaotic, unstable structure that is doomed to collapse. In the world of Data Cloud, this collapse looks like this. The unified customer profile, the very heart of the platform, becomes a Frankenstein's monster of duplicate records and conflicting information. Segments that should take seconds to build take hours to run, if they run at all. You try to activate a campaign, but the data is so messy and untrustworthy that your personalization efforts backfire. Sending an offer for a new laptop to someone who just bought one yesterday. The entire multi-million-dollar investment in the platform grinds to a halt, all because someone on day one said, "Let's just dump all the data in and figure it out later." Let me tell you a story about a company we'll call Glow Up, a fast-growing online cosmetics brand. They were sitting on a goldmine of data: website clicks from their e-commerce site, purchase history from their Shopify store, email engagement from MailChimp, and loyalty points from their rewards app. They bought Data Cloud with a dream: to create a seamless, hyper-personalized journey for every customer. The VP of marketing was ecstatic. He wanted results, and he wanted them yesterday. His directive to the implementation team was simple: connect everything. I want all the data in the platform by the end of the month. Most of the team, eager to please, nodded and got to work, setting up data streams and just ingesting everything as fast as possible. But one person, a mid-level data analyst named Maria, raised her hand. She said, "Wait, we need to stop and think about what a customer actually is." The room went silent. The VP of marketing looked annoyed. "What do you mean? A customer is a customer." Maria walked up to the whiteboard. "Okay," she said. "On our website, a customer is identified by a browser cookie. In Shopify, it's an email address tied to an order. In our loyalty app, it's a unique member ID. If we just dump all this in Data Cloud, we'll see 3 different people. We'll have one person who browsed for lipstick, another person who bought the lipstick, and a third person who earned loyalty points for it. We'll never be able to connect the dots. We need to design the blueprint first." She spent the next hour drawing what are called data model objects or DMOs. She drew a central object called Unified Individual. Then she drew lines connecting it to other objects: purchase history, web browsing activity, email engagement. She asked questions nobody had thought to ask. What happens if a customer changes their email address? Which system is our source of truth? How do we handle returns? Does a return get linked to the original purchase? And how does that affect their loyalty status in real time? The VP was impatient, but Maria held her ground. She argued that 2 weeks spent building a proper blueprint now would save them 6 months of chaos and failed projects later. Reluctantly, he agreed. For 2 weeks, Maria and a small team worked tirelessly. They mapped every single piece of data from every source system to their new clean blueprint. It was tedious, unglamorous work. Meanwhile, the other team was bragging about how many terabytes of data they had already ingested. Then came the moment of truth. The VP asked for a simple segment. Show me all customers who have spent over $200 in the last 6 months, who abandoned a cart containing a foundation product in the last week, and who have not opened our last 3 emails. The team that had just dumped the data in their system ground to a halt. They couldn't do it. Their data was a tangled mess of duplicates and contradictions. They couldn't reliably link a cart abandonment cookie to a purchase email to a loyalty ID. Their project was a catastrophic failure. Then they turned to Maria's system. She built the segment in less than 90 seconds. The list materialized on screen, clean, accurate, and ready to go. The marketing team activated a targeted campaign to that small, high-intent segment. The result? A 65% conversion rate, the highest in the company's history. Maria wasn't just the hero of the project. She was promoted to Director of Data Architecture within a year. She didn't just know how to use a tool. She knew how to think. She knew how to build the blueprint. That is the power of this skill. It's not about being a database admin. It's about being the architect of business success. So, how do you become that architect? How do you learn to build the blueprint? It starts with a mindset shift. Stop thinking about data streams and connectors, and start thinking like a librarian. Your job is to organize all the information in your company's universe so that anyone can find exactly what they need, instantly. First, you need to master the holy trinity of data modeling: objects, fields, and relationships. Objects, or what Data Cloud calls DMOs, are the nouns of your business. Customer, product, order, case, campaign. These are the core concepts. Fields are the adjectives that describe those nouns. For a customer, the fields are first name, last name, email address, phone number. For a product, it's SKU, price, color. Relationships are the verbs that connect the nouns. A customer places an order. An order contains a product. Understanding these relationships, especially the difference between one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many, is absolutely critical. Your first step is to dive into Trailhead and search for the Customer 360 Data Model. This is Salesforce's official blueprint for how to model customer data. Don't just glance at it. Study it. Print it out. Understand why they structured it the way they did. This is literally the answer key to the test. It's the single most valuable and most overlooked resource for anyone starting in Data Cloud. Next, you need to get your hands dirty, but you don't need a complex system to start. All you need is a whiteboard or a piece of paper. Pick a business you understand intimately. It could be the coffee shop you go to every morning, your gym, or an online store you love. Now start architecting. First, identify the nouns. What are the key things? For a coffee shop, it's customers, employees, products like coffee, pastries, and transactions. Those are your first 4 DMOs. Second, list the adjectives. For the customer object, what do you need to know? Name, phone number for the loyalty program, birthday for a free drink. For the transaction object, transaction ID, date, time, total amount, employee who served them. These are your fields. Third, draw the verbs. Draw lines connecting your objects. A customer makes a transaction. An employee facilitates a transaction. A transaction includes one or more products. You've just created a relationship map. You're thinking like an architect. Once you've drawn it out, go into a free Data Cloud developer org and try to build it. Create the custom DMOs and the fields you designed on paper. This act of translating a real-world business process into a logical data structure is the fundamental exercise. Do this over and over with different businesses, and you will build the muscle memory of a true data architect. Because once you have this perfectly designed, incredibly powerful blueprint in place, you've accomplished something amazing. You've brought order to chaos. You've built a solid foundation. But a blueprint, no matter how brilliant, is still just a piece of paper. A skyscraper doesn't build itself. You need to be able to speak to the data, to question it, to command it to assemble itself into the precise insights you need. Having a perfect data model without knowing how to query it is like having a map to a treasure chest but no key to open it. The structure is there, the value is locked inside, but you can't get to it. The next skill we're going to cover is that key. It's the universal language of data, the tool that lets you unlock the full potential of the architecture you so carefully designed. It's how you go from being the architect to being the treasure hunter. And the tool you use to decipher that map, to follow the clues, and to actually put your hands on that buried gold, is structured query language, or as everyone on the planet calls it, SQL. Now hold on. If that three-letter acronym just made your eyes glaze over, stay with me, because I guarantee you by the end of this section, you'll see SQL not as a boring coding language but as a superpower. It is, without a doubt, one of the most critical non-negotiable skills for a high-level career in Salesforce Data Cloud. So what is it? Forget the textbooks. Think of it this way: Data Cloud is like an enormous, infinitely complex library. It contains every piece of information about your customers, every purchase, every click, every complaint, every interaction. It's all there. Now you could try to wander through the aisles yourself, manually pulling books off the shelf, hoping you find what you need. That's the point-and-click interface. It's useful for simple requests. But what if you need something incredibly specific? What if you need to find every book written in the 1980s about dragons, but only the ones where the main character is from Boston and has a last name that starts with him? You can't just browse for that. You need to walk up to the master librarian, the database engine, and ask for it in a language the librarian understands perfectly. That language is SQL. SQL is how you have a precise, intelligent conversation with your data. It's a set of commands you use to ask incredibly detailed questions and get exactly the right answers back instantly. It's not a general-purpose programming language like Python or Java. It does one thing, and it does it better than anything else on Earth: it gets data out of databases. So why is this so fundamental to Data Cloud? Because unlike the traditional Salesforce objects you might be used to, Data Cloud is built on a modern data lakehouse architecture. Under the hood, it's powered by technology like Snowflake, and it thinks in SQL. SQL is its native tongue. While Salesforce has built a beautiful user interface on top of it, the real power, the real granular control, comes from speaking the language of the machine itself. When you create a calculated insight in Data Cloud to, say, calculate a customer's lifetime value, you might use the point-and-click builder. But what is Data Cloud doing in the background? It's translating your clicks into a SQL query. When you're in the Data Explorer, digging into a data model object to see the raw records, you can switch to a query view. What are you writing? SQL. Knowing SQL in a Data Cloud context is the difference between being a passenger and being the driver. Sure, as a passenger, you can tell the driver, "Take me to the grocery store." But as the driver, you know the shortcuts, you can avoid traffic, you can decide to stop for coffee on the way, and you can understand what that weird noise the engine is making means. You have total control and a much deeper understanding of how you're getting from point A to point B. When something breaks, you're not helpless. You can pop the hood and diagnose the problem because you understand the mechanics. Let's make this real. Let's tell a story. Imagine you work for a high-end online retailer. The marketing team is worried. They feel like they're losing some of their best customers, but they can't prove it. Their definition of a best customer is simple: anyone who has spent over $5,000 in the last year. They have a list, and they keep sending these people expensive catalogs and promotional offers, but engagement is dropping. The company is spending a fortune, and it's not working. They come to you, the Data Cloud expert. They give you their list. You know that their definition of best customer is based on a single data point, total spend, which they pulled from a simple report in Sales Cloud. It's a one-dimensional view of a three-dimensional person. You know the real story, the treasure is buried deeper. So, you roll up your sleeves and you open up a query editor. You become the treasure hunter. First, you start with a select statement. This is you telling the librarian, "Here's what I want you to hand me." You don't just ask for a name. You ask for the customer's first name, their last name, their email, and their unique unified individual ID. Select first name, last name, email, unified individual ID. Simple enough. Next, from where should the librarian look? You point them to the master bookshelf of all your customers, the unified individual data model object. From unified individual, now the magic begins. This is where you separate yourself from the amateurs. You use a join. A join is how you connect different pieces of information together. It's how you take the customer from one bookshelf and connect them to their purchase history on another bookshelf and their website visits on a third. You join the unified individual data with the sales order data model object, connecting them on the customer ID. Now you can see every single purchase they've ever made. But you don't stop there. You do another join to the website engagement data, which has been streamed in from your website. Now you can see every page they've viewed, every product they've clicked on. And one more join. You pull in the case data from Service Cloud. Now you can see every support ticket they've ever filed. You've just built a complete 360-degree view of each person. But right now it's a massive unfiltered list of every customer and all their activity. It's noise. You need to find the signal. This is where you use the where clause. The where clause is your filter. It's you telling the librarian the really specific stuff. Only the books about dragons from Boston, with a last name starting with a. So you start building your where clause. First, you want to see everyone who has spent over $5,000 in the last year. You add that condition. This gives you the same list the marketing team started with. But then you add your own insights. You add an end condition. Show me only the people on that list whose number of website sessions in the last 30 days is 0. These are big spenders who have stopped visiting the site. Red flag number 1. Another end condition. Show me the people who also haven't opened a marketing email in the last 60 days. They're not just not visiting, they're actively ignoring you. Red flag number 2. And the final killer and condition, show me the people who also have an open escalated support ticket that's more than a week old. You hit run query. And in seconds the database returns a list. It's not a huge list. It's maybe 250 names. But these 250 names are pure gold. This isn't just a list of big spenders. This is a list of your most valuable customers who are silently furious. They've spent a fortune with you, but now they're ignoring your marketing, they've stopped browsing your site, and they're stuck with an unresolved problem. They are about to churn, and they're going to take their $5,000 a year with them forever. You just went from an architect to a treasure hunter, and you found the map to millions of dollars in saved revenue. You didn't do it with a drag and drop report. You did it by speaking the native language of data. You did it with SQL. This is the power you unlock. It's the ability to ask nuanced, multi-layered questions that are impossible to answer with standard tools. So how do you learn it? The beauty of SQL is that it's been around for decades. It's stable and the resources are endless. You can start with the absolute basics on Khan Academy or Code Academy. Then when you want to practice, you can use sites like LeetCode or HackerRank to solve real-world problems. Most importantly, Salesforce Trailhead has modules specifically on SQL for Data Cloud, teaching you the specific functions and syntax, like match_recognize, that are unique to the platform. Start small. Your first query will literally be select asterisk from a underscore table. That's the hello world of SQL. From there, you learn to filter with where, then you learn to sort with order by, and then you learn the most powerful concept of all, joins. It's a logical progression. And here's the secret. Learning SQL will make you better at everything else in Data Cloud. It will force you to understand data modeling on a deeper level, because you'll feel the pain of a poorly designed model when you try to write a query against it. It will make you a better troubleshooter, because you can look at the SQL generated by a tool and immediately see why it's failing. It is the bedrock. It's the foundation upon which so many other data skills are built. You've designed the architecture, you understand the data models, and now you have the key SQL to unlock any insight you can imagine. You've found the treasure. But finding it is only half the battle. A list of 250 at-risk customers sitting in a spreadsheet doesn't actually save the company. The insight is worthless until you act on it. So how do you take that list, that golden insight you just unearthed, and get it into the hands of the right people at the right time in the right system automatically? How do you operationalize your discovery and turn data into action? That requires bridging the gap between the analytical world of SQL and the operational world of Salesforce. And that bridge is built with our fourth essential skill: activation and automation. These aren't just buzzwords. They are the engine of Data Cloud. This is the skill that separates a data analyst from a data-driven business architect. It's the difference between creating a report that someone might read and building an automated system that drives revenue while you sleep. Let's be honest. For decades, the world of business intelligence and data analysis has had a dirty little secret. An analyst would spend weeks gathering requirements, cleaning data, building a complex model, and finally produce a beautiful dashboard or a 50-page report. They'd present it in a big meeting, everyone would nod and say great insights, and then nothing would happen. The report would get saved to a shared drive, collect digital dust, and the business would continue operating the exact same way it did before. The insight was disconnected from the action. The potential was lost. Data Cloud was built to destroy this disconnect, and your ability to master activation and automation is how you'll do it. This skill is about asking the ultimate question after every single SQL query you write. So what? You found the top 10% of customers by lifetime value? So what? What are we going to do for them right now? You identified customers who haven't opened an email in 60 days? So what? How are we going to re-engage them automatically? You discovered a correlation between viewing a specific product page and making a large purchase within 48 hours? So what? How do we capitalize on that signal in real time? Answering the so what is the job. Let me paint you a picture of how this plays out in the real world. Imagine you're working for a large e-commerce company. Let's call them Peak Performance Gear. They sell high-end outdoor equipment. Using your SQL skills, you've built a powerful calculated insight in Data Cloud that identifies a very specific, very valuable segment, hibernating whales. These are customers who have a lifetime value of over $5,000, but haven't made a purchase in the last 120 days. These are your best customers and they're slipping away. Now let's look at this scenario in two different universes. Universe A is the old way of doing things. Universe B is the Data Cloud way. In Universe A, you, the analyst, run your query. You export a list of 2,347 hibernating whales into a CSV file. You email this file to Sarah, the head of marketing. Sarah is swamped. She opens the email 3 days later. She sees the list and thinks, "This is great, we should run a win-back campaign." She forwards it to her email marketing specialist, Tom. Tom is in the middle of launching the new spring collection, so your list sits in his inbox for another 4 days. Finally, a week after you first identified the segment, Tom manually uploads the list into their email service provider. He whips up a generic "We miss you" email with the 15% off coupon and schedules it to go out. A few people use the coupon, but the results are mediocre. Why? Because the message was generic and it was a week late. Meanwhile, Sarah also forwarded your list to the director of sales, telling him to have his team follow up. The director carves up the list by region and emails smaller spreadsheets to his 5 regional managers. 2 of them are on vacation. The other 3 forward the list to their top sales reps. The reps, who are busy chasing new leads, look at a cold list of names with no context. They're supposed to call these people. What should they say? What did they buy last? The entire process is slow, leaky, and completely manual. By the time a rep actually makes a call to, maybe 3 weeks after you identified the problem, that hibernating whale has already bought a new $1,000 tent from your biggest competitor. The opportunity is gone. The potential revenue is lost forever. That is the world of disconnected data. Now let's step into Universe B, the Data Cloud universe. The universe where you have mastered activation and automation. You've created the exact same hibernating whales segment in Data Cloud using your SQL skills. But this time you don't export a CSV. Instead, you build an activation. First, you set an activation target. You tell Data Cloud, "I want to send this segment to Marketing Cloud and to Sales Cloud." Next, you define the automation. Here's what you build, and it takes you maybe an hour, not weeks of manual follow-up. The moment a customer meets the criteria and enters the hibernating whales segment, a series of actions are triggered instantly and automatically. 1. A personalized, multi-step journey is initiated in Marketing Cloud Journey Builder. The first email that goes out isn't a generic, "We miss you." It's dynamically populated with images of the product category they used to buy from most. If they were a climber, they see new climbing gear. If they were a hiker, they see new boots. The subject line might even mention the last product they bought. It's personal, relevant, and immediate. 2. Simultaneously, back in Sales Cloud, a Salesforce flow is triggered. If you haven't worked with Flow, think of it as a powerful tool that lets you build automated workflows without writing code. You are essentially designing the business process. Your flow does 3 things automatically for every single hibernating whale. First, it checks who the customer's account owner is. Let's say it's a sales rep named Maria. Second, it creates a new high-priority task for Maria in her Salesforce dashboard. The task title isn't just "Call Customer." It's "High-Value Customer at Risk. Call Jane Doe." The task description is automatically filled with crucial context directly from Data Cloud. Jane's LTV is $6,250. Her last purchase was 121 days ago. She frequently buys from our trail running category. Third, the flow sends a real-time notification to Maria via Slack. She gets a message on her phone that says, "Heads up, one of your top customers, Jane Doe, is at risk of churning. A task has been created for you in Salesforce with all the details. Here's her phone number." Now what happens? Maria, instead of getting a cold spreadsheet 2 weeks late, gets an immediate actionable alert. She sees the notification, clicks into the task, has all the context she needs, and calls Jane. She doesn't say, "Hi, we're calling because you haven't bought anything." She says, "Hey Jane, it's Maria from Peak Performance. I was just thinking about you and saw that you're a huge fan of our trail running shoes. We actually just released the new XT5 model with enhanced grip, and I thought of you immediately. I can offer you early access and free overnight shipping if you're interested." That is the difference. It's the difference between a stale report and a real-time, revenue-generating system. It's the difference between a maybe and a yes. And it's the difference between an analyst who reports on the past and a strategist who shapes the future. This skill isn't just about knowing which buttons to click in Data Cloud to set up an activation. It's a way of thinking. You have to be part business process designer, part systems architect, and part data strategist. You need to understand the capabilities of the different Salesforce clouds. What can Marketing Cloud do with this data? What's the best way to empower a sales rep in Sales Cloud? How can we create a better experience for a customer who calls into Service Cloud? You're connecting the dots. You're building the data nervous system for the entire company, where an insight detected in one place triggers an intelligent action somewhere else, all orchestrated by you. This is why this skill is so critical. Companies are drowning in data, but they are starving for action. If you can be the person who builds the bridge between their data and their actions, you are no longer a cost center. You are a profit center. You are one of the most valuable people in the entire organization, because you are the one turning their biggest asset, their data, into their most desired outcomes. More customers, more loyalty, and more revenue. You've learned to ingest and model the data. You've learned to query and analyze it with SQL. You've now learned how to activate it and automate the business around it. You're building an incredibly powerful, intelligent machine. But with all this power, with the ability to trigger actions and personalize experiences at a massive scale, comes an enormous responsibility. How do you make sure this complex system is trustworthy? How do you govern this constant flow of data to ensure you're building customer trust, not accidentally destroying it? How do you manage consent, privacy, and preferences in a world where a single mistake can go viral? That brings us to the final and arguably the most important skill you need to master. And that skill is ethical data stewardship. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Stewardship? Ethics? Isn't that soft? I'm here for the hard skills, the tech, the code. And I get it. We've spent this entire time talking about SQL, data modeling, segmentation, and activation, tangible technical abilities you can put on a resume. But let me be crystal clear. Without this final skill, all the others are not just useless. They are dangerous. They are a high-performance engine with no steering wheel and no brakes. Ethical data stewardship isn't a soft skill. It's the foundational skill. It's the operating system that runs everything else. It's the difference between being a data technician and a data leader. Let's imagine a company. We'll call them Aura Health, a fast-growing online wellness brand. They sell supplements, fitness gear, and personalized health plans. They've just implemented Data Cloud and they've hired a brilliant technical team. Their data models are pristine. Their identity resolution is working flawlessly, creating rich, unified profiles for millions of customers. Their SQL queries are lightning fast. They can segment their audience with surgical precision. On paper, they are a data-driven dream. One day, a marketing manager has a brilliant idea. Using Data Cloud, they identify a segment of customers who previously bought a specific weight loss supplement, but who haven't purchased anything in the last 6 months. They also cross-reference this with web browsing data, seeing that these same users have recently been looking at articles related to losing motivation and diet plateaus. The technical capability is astounding. They can see the pattern. They can see the pain point. The marketing manager wants to launch a highly targeted email and social media campaign with the headline, "Fallen off the wagon? Aura Health can get you back on track." The campaign would offer a steep discount on a new, more potent version of the supplement they originally bought. From a purely technical standpoint, this is a masterpiece. It's using unified data to identify a need and activate a personalized solution. It will almost certainly drive sales. But now, let's put on our data steward hat. The first question a steward asks isn't, "Can we do this?" It's, "Should we do this?" Let's break this down through the 3 pillars of ethical data stewardship: governance, privacy, and ethics. First, governance. Data governance is the rulebook. It's the framework that dictates how data is managed, accessed, and used. It's not about restriction, it's about responsibility. A good governance plan at Aura Health would have immediately raised red flags. Health data, even something as seemingly innocuous as buying a weight loss supplement, is incredibly sensitive. Who has the right to see this data? Who has the authority to approve a campaign based on it? Is there a formal review process for campaigns that use sensitive behavioral triggers? Without a governance framework, the marketing team is operating in a wild west, making high-stakes decisions based on their own judgment. A data steward would have built this framework, ensuring that a decision this sensitive goes through a clear, documented approval process involving legal, marketing, and data teams. Second, privacy and consent. This is where the rubber meets the road. Did these customers actually agree to have their purchase history combined with their browsing behavior to be targeted with ads about their personal health struggles? Maybe they checked a box on a consent form years ago, but was the language clear? The "I agree to the terms and conditions" checkbox is the biggest lie on the internet. True consent is a living, breathing thing. A customer might be fine with you using their data to recommend a new type of running shoe based on their past purchases. They are probably not fine with you psychoanalyzing their browsing history to call them out for falling off the wagon. In Data Cloud, this isn't just a theoretical problem. This is where the consent management objects are critical. A data steward doesn't just implement these objects, they champion them. They ensure the company is tracking consent with nuance. For example, a customer's consent to receive a monthly newsletter is not the same as consent to receive highly targeted behavioral marketing about your perceived health status. Honoring this distinction is the bedrock of trust. The Aura Health campaign, by violating this unspoken contract, would feel invasive. It would feel like a betrayal. The customer would feel less like a valued person and more like a data point to be exploited. And that brings us to the third and most crucial pillar, ethics. Ethics goes beyond what is legal. It's about what is right. Just because you can legally do something with data doesn't mean you should. The Aura Health campaign is a perfect example. Is it ethical to use someone's moment of vulnerability, their search for help with motivation, as a marketing opportunity? Is it right to frame your message in a way that could induce feelings of shame or failure, just to sell a product? The campaign's headline, "Fallen off the wagon?" is emotionally charged. For someone struggling with their health journey, it could be deeply discouraging. It transforms Aura Health from a supportive partner into a judgmental observer. This is the creepy factor. It's that feeling you get when an ad knows a little too much about you. It's the line between personalization that feels helpful and personalization that feels like surveillance. A true data steward is the guardian of that line. They are the voice in the room that says, "Hang on, let's think about the human being on the other end of this data point. How will this message make them feel? Does this interaction build a long-term relationship? Or does it just go for a short-term sale at the cost of trust?" They might have proposed an alternative. Instead of a shaming headline, what about a campaign that offers free, genuinely helpful content? Blog posts or videos on how to overcome a fitness plateau? Or 5 tips for staying motivated? Nurture the customer. Rebuild the relationship. Then maybe gently reintroduce the product as a potential solution. One approach exploits a vulnerability. The other serves a need. Both use the same data, the same technology. But the philosophy, the stewardship, is worlds apart. Mastering this skill means you're not just executing tasks. You are providing wisdom. You are the one who understands that customer data is not a resource to be mined like coal. It is a gift that customers have entrusted to your company. Your job is to protect it, respect it, and use it in a way that delivers value back to them. In practice, this means you are the expert on Data Cloud's privacy and consent features. You know how to configure data retention policies to automatically delete or anonymize data after a certain period. You know how to implement data masking so that an analyst can see trends without seeing an individual's personally identifiable information. You know how to handle a right-to-be-forgotten request, ensuring that when a customer asks to be deleted, you can confidently and completely remove their unified profile from the system. This is the skill that will make you indispensable. Companies are terrified of making a mistake like Aura Health. The headlines are full of companies that got it wrong, facing multi-million-dollar fines, catastrophic brand damage, and a total loss of customer trust. They are desperately searching for professionals who don't just know how to use the tools, but who have the maturity and foresight to use them wisely. When you can walk into an interview and not just explain how you build a segmentation model, but also how you build a governance framework around it, not just how you'd activate a journey, but how you'd ensure every message honors the customer's consent, not just how you'd leverage data, but how you champion the ethical treatment of it, that is when you stop being just another candidate. You become a strategic partner. You become the safe pair of hands they've been looking for. And so we arrive at the final crucial understanding. These 5 skills: technical mastery, architectural vision, business acumen, data storytelling, and ethical governance. They aren't separate pillars standing in a row. They are the interlocking gears of a single, powerful engine. An engine that drives modern business. You can't have one without the others and expect the machine to work. A brilliant SQL query without business context is just noise. A beautiful data model that can't be explained to the C-suite is just a diagram. A compelling story based on flawed, unethical data isn't just ineffective, it's dangerous. When you master the synthesis of these skills, you undergo a fundamental transformation. You stop being a person who uses Salesforce, and you become a person who wields it. You're no longer just a technician. You're a translator, bridging the gap between the ones and zeros of raw data and the dollars and cents of business outcomes. You're not just an administrator. You're an architect, designing the very nervous system of a company's customer relationships. This is the difference between having a job and building a career. A job is about executing tasks. A career is about creating value. And in the world of Data Cloud, the value you can create is almost limitless. Because let's be crystal clear about what's happening right now. We are living through the most significant shift in business since the dawn of the internet. For decades, companies have been collecting data like it was a precious metal, hoarding it in siloed vaults called databases, CRMs, and marketing platforms. They knew it was valuable, but they couldn't spend it. They couldn't unify it. It was like having 1,000 different currencies from 1,000 different countries with no exchange rate. Data Cloud is the universal exchange. It's the platform that finally allows a business to see a single, unified, golden record of its customer. Not the marketing customer or the sales customer or the service customer. Just the customer. And the person who can build, manage, and activate that unified view is standing at the epicenter of value creation for the entire organization. Every major trend you hear about, hyper-personalization, generative AI, predictive analytics, real-time customer journeys, they all have one thing in common. They are all desperately thirsty for clean, unified, real-time data. Without it, they are just buzzwords on a PowerPoint slide. With it, they are revolutionary tools that can reshape entire industries. And you are the one who turns on the tap. You are the enabler. You are the linchpin holding the entire strategy together. This isn't just about being in demand. This is about being indispensable. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This sounds massive. It sounds like I need 5 different degrees to even get started. I get it. The scale of this opportunity can feel intimidating. Imposter syndrome might be whispering in your ear, telling you that you're not technical enough, not strategic enough, not experienced enough. I want you to tell that voice to be quiet for a minute and listen to me. Every single expert you admire in this field started from zero. Every single one of them had a day one, where they didn't know what a data stream was or how a calculated insight worked. The difference between them and everyone else is that they didn't let the size of the mountain stop them from taking the first step, and the second, and the third. This journey isn't a vertical climb up a sheer cliff face. It's a path that has been laid out for you by the thousands of trailblazers who have walked it before. It's a series of small, manageable steps that, when taken consistently, lead to an extraordinary destination. You don't need to become a SQL master overnight. You just need to learn one new query this week. You don't need to design a global data architecture tomorrow. You just need to understand the difference between a data lakehouse and a data warehouse today. It's about progress, not perfection. It's about momentum. So, how do you build that momentum? How do you go from watching this video to actually taking that first step on the path? Let's make it real. Let's build your roadmap right here, right now. First, your foundation is Trailhead. It is non-negotiable. The Salesforce ecosystem is unique because it provides a free, gamified, world-class education platform. Your first action after this video is to go to Trailhead and find the Data Cloud Consultant Certification Trail. Don't be intimidated by the word consultant. This trail is the curriculum. It's the A to Z guide. Your goal is not to finish it in a week. Your goal is to start it. Do the first module. Earn your first badge. That's it. That one small victory is the spark that lights the fire. Second, you must get your hands dirty. Theory is useless without practice. Salesforce gives you a free Data Cloud developer org. There is zero excuse not to be building. Connect it to your free Sales Cloud and Service Cloud orgs. Ingest sample data. Try to harmonize it. Build a segmentation model, even if it's a simple one. Break things. Fix them. The aha moments don't happen when you're reading. They happen when you're struggling with a formula field at 11 p.m. and it finally clicks. That's where the real learning lives. Create a personal project. For example, imagine you run a small online bookstore. How would you use Data Cloud to segment customers who bought fantasy novels in the last 6 months but haven't bought the latest release? Build it. Document it. That one simple project is now the star of your resume and your interview conversations. Third, immerse yourself in the community. The Trailblazer community is your secret weapon. You are not on this journey alone. There are forums, community groups, and local meetups filled with people who are on the exact same path, or who are a few steps ahead and willing to lend a hand. Ask questions, even the stupid ones. Share what you've learned. Answer someone else's question if you can. This is how you build your network, find mentors, and hear about opportunities before they're even posted on job boards. Your network is your net worth, and in the Salesforce world, that network is actively waiting to help you. And finally, aim for certification. The Data Cloud Consultant certification is the gold standard. It's the signal to the market that you have put in the work and possess a verified baseline level of expertise. It's not the end of your learning journey, but it is a critical milestone. Gets your foot in the door. It makes recruiters take your call. It gives you the confidence to walk into an interview and know that you belong there. Put a date on the calendar. Work backwards from that date, breaking down your study plan into weekly goals. Turn a vague dream into a concrete project with a deadline. So there it is. The skills, the opportunity, the roadmap. Everything you need is right in front of you. The rest is up to you. This is more than just a career pivot. This is a chance to place yourself at the very heart of the data revolution that is defining the 21st century. It's a chance to future-proof your skills in a world increasingly run by AI and automation. It's a chance to build a career that is not only lucrative, but also deeply strategic and intellectually stimulating. The businesses of tomorrow will not be built on gut feelings or intuition. They will be built on data. They will be won by the companies that understand their customers most deeply. And the people who hold the keys to that understanding, the people who can turn a sea of chaotic data into a single source of truth, will be the most valuable players in any room they walk into. The question is no longer what if. The question is when. When will you take that first step? The path is clear. The tools are free. The community is waiting. Your future is not going to build itself. You have to build it. Start today.